I'll give you all a good show, promise. If anyone's wondering what we just did there, essentially I'll just show you all. Actually, I'll show you it all. So the last dungeon we do is Fire Temple. And this is actually the last tree of the game as well. So this is the last dungeon to do. We've got the last heart piece. Instead of like running down to Ganon's castle, what we do instead is we pull out a fish and an ocarina, drop the fish, pick up the fish. And this is a fun little thing if you guys don't know. If you ever pick up a fish and you're holding fish in your bottle, you can do what's called OI, Ocarina Items. And if you do a backflip, and in your backflip, tap the bottle, and then a sword or hook shot or something like that, you can actually play an invisible ocarina. Like that. So the game thinks we're playing an ocarina at the moment, okay? Usually you can't actually use ocarinas in this room, but because we've done it with Ocarina of Items, we've essentially bypassed the game. Now, because we're in ocarina mode, what's going to happen is the game's going to, send us away and warp us away. But because we're in ocarina, like we're holding an ocarina, what we can do is we can actually put away our ocarina and just walk away. Because usually what happens is when you touch the blue ring, you walk inside the blue ring and then you get warped up. But because we're holding onto ocarina, we're not going to walk into it. We're just sitting here with our hook shot. So thing cancels and we just walk away. Now what's happened is it's trying to warp us now. Right? The sequence to warp us all the way is beginning. And it's like the game thinks we're being lifted into like the warp portal and whatnot. But in reality, we're just going over here. Okay. Now at this point, right, we're far enough from the portal and we're not looking at the portal. Which means the sequence of warping us away has been paused. When we look at the portal again, it'll start to like send us away again. But because we're far enough away and we're not looking at the portal, the game's not currently trying to warp us away. So what we do is we clip out of bounds here. We just do that with a simple jump slash. And then we walk off. But remember, it's supposed to be warping us away. So the second we walk off, we start to float because like the game's trying to float us up away. And so what we do is we then go neutral at a certain point, which is this point here. We can tell by where Link's foot is. It's like above the crystal. We then activate Z. We hit Z, which essentially like locks the camera in place. So from here, we lock the camera in place, and now we're sitting, I'll show you, at the door, inside the door. If we look here, we're gonna get warped away. But at the moment, we're just chilling in the door. So if we look, we warp, but we're not gonna look. Okay? What we're gonna do now is we're gonna pull out our hook shot and look at it very briefly. Now essentially, we've looked at the portal enough that the next time we look at it for one frame, we'll get warped away instantly. So what we do here is we're currently inside the door. We walk forward. Okay. Now we're inside the door. Okay? And what's going to happen, right, is we're going to look at the door. No, we're going to look at the portal at the exact same time we hit the loading zone. So we do an ESS turn and pull out our hammer. And so as you can see, what's going to happen is we're going to swing our hammer and we're going to activate camera. So we're going to hit the wall with the hammer. It's going to push us the opposite way. And then at the same time, we're going to look at the portal. And because of that, we've warped to Ganon's castle. Essentially, the memory's gotten confused, right? It's got like a sending address where it sends us. And by entering through that door instead of warping through the portal, it's essentially altered the memory and warped us to an unintentional place. And this is the collapse sequence. So this is at the very end of the game. You kill Ganon, the whole thing comes collapsing down, and you gotta escape to the bottom. Now, we're not actually meant to be here. right? So even though this is like the collapse sequence, if we go back through here again, it'll think it's the collapse sequence is starting again because the game doesn't quite know what to do. So to stop us from having to do the collapse sequence and then climb back down here again, what we can do is go out of bounds and just essentially get to the bottom of the castle by going out of bounds. This trick here is a pain in the ass. It's very precise. And this is like the very last trick of the run. So... So essentially you go through this entire run, this whole 4 to 5 hour run, depending how good you are. And at the very end, you have to do these perfect, not perfect, like 1 to 2 frame specific hovers. So I'll quickly do it now. Yeah, legit. Okay. Sorry, 1 second, guys. Okay, this should work. Okay, so now we've just like hovered up to this spot in the sky. The reason why the way we've hovered is we've got ISG currently. Okay, and ISG, the effects of, let me save it and I'll quickly chop down. The effects of ISG is you're always swinging, right? But you actually can't go off ledges. So even though I'm like trying to walk off the ledge here, I can't do it. It's like, it's gonna keep me on the same platform. But then an unintentional side effect is because you can't walk off ledges, right? Let's say you manage... Oh, wait, hold on, I did it wrong. Let's say you've managed to... Let's say you've managed to get yourself in an air position, right? Because you're not allowed to fall off platforms, you just essentially hover in the sky. If you're high enough from the ground, you literally just hover from the sky. So what we did was we kept doing, with hover boots, we kept making ourselves get higher and higher and higher. No! I lost it because I hit save state! Oh, I gotta do it again. I'll do it again. But essentially, we're hovered in the same place, and we can't fall off because of ISG. So the thing about this trick here is, it's actually like really precise. Like, it's precise to the fact that we have to be at such a specific Z coordinate. I think it's Z. Up and down is X. We have to be at a very specific X coordinate to like 2 decimal places. So I actually don't know the number, but it's like 37.5. And if it's like anything less than 37.5, 37.4, for example, it's not gonna work. It's gonna be like a very specific spot. Which is why like I pause buffer to this frame, because it needs to be this frame. We pop the explosion. And then it needs to be stance right, 3 chews, stance left, 1 chew. I didn't explain stance. Okay. So, for some reason, if you look at Link's foot, he's like currently facing towards the left. For some reason, when you're doing these hovers, if his stance is like that versus a stance like this, you're going to have different heights depending on it. So you have to make sure that the stance is correct for some of them. So this is back to where we were. We've got ISG. We're floating in the air because of the ISG not letting us, or trying to force us to stay on the ground. We change the hover boots and we hop over here. Now, this spot where we've landed on this platform is very precise. If it was like any bit less, we would just like fall through. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna essentially get as far into the wall as possible. Okay, and this is like far enough from the wall. And we're gonna turn around. And we're going to get a very specific angle. This one. And then we're gonna do a side hop. And when Link's right there, we're going to jump slash and hold forward. What we've just done is we've essentially popped as far as we can out of the wall and side hopped out of boundaries and jump slashed back into the boundaries again. But we've jump slashed into this room, which currently isn't loaded. Rooms can only be loaded if you walk through the doorway. It's like a way of saving RAM in the game. You don't have to process every room at once, right? Every time you walk through a new doorway, you can just load the new room. So what they do here is they... So, I was just thinking for a second. What they do here is they make it that every time you walk through a doorway, it goes to the room. But we've essentially gone to this room, not through the doorway. So it's not loaded at all. But if we go to, like, collision mode... Give me 1 second. Sorry, where is collision mode? I'm so sorry, chat. This is embarrassing. Collision, here it is. Show collision. You'll see that, like, the room's here. So this is like the boundaries to all the wall. The collisions are all here. The doorways are here, the box there. This is a loading zone, so if we go through here, it's gonna take us into the doorway over here. Back to the castle top again. And so what we're gonna do then is, we've essentially clipped down here, right? And I think up there is where we came from, right? All we can do now is, usually I can't see where I'm going, right? It's usually like completely black. I just come down here. 1, 2, 3. Roll forward. And then I go until I get a bonk. And then I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Back walk. And side hop. And then we're literally at the end. And that's how we skip the entire Ganon sequence and go from... Get off me. And go from... Fire Temple all the way down to the final boss. Or the, you know, defeat Ganon, Castle Columns down, you beat big beast dude. A fun fact with the boss fight, right? Let me turn off collision, I'll show you all. you can actually get a kiss from her if you like. Well, I guess it's not technically a kiss, but like she like walks into you if you're like at a very specific pixel perfect area. So anyone who's familiar with Ocarina of Time speedrunning will know of crouch. Will know of power stabbing, I think it's called. What it's called. And essentially, what happens is the game never processed anything for crouch stab. So like when you swing a sword, for example, it might say, I don't know the specific values, 6 damage. And then if you like do a jump slash, it could be 10 damage, right? And then hammer swing could be a specific amount and whatnot. But for some reason, for crouch stab, they wrote no value. Like no value whatsoever. So what happens, right, is if you do a jump slash and then you start crouch stabbing immediately afterwards, every crouch stab you're going to do is going to do the same damage as a jump slash. Because they never wrote value for your crouch stab. And so what we can do here, right, is we can actually jump slash, because then the damage of a Master Sword has been saved. Come over here, and he's going to knock our sword away, right? So all we have to do is crouch stab with a hammer, and we'll have the same damage of a Master Sword. Which is significant because if you guys don't know, Master Sword does like 3 times the amount of damage onto Ganon here versus like a big Goron sword or Megaton hammer, because it's the Master Sword. It's made to defeat Ganon, so it's stronger at this segment. So it gets rid of our sword. But it doesn't matter because our crouch stab is going to do jump slash Master Sword damage to him. And so he's gonna like, we're gonna go through this phase so quickly because yeah, we've just like, we're gonna just smash him down with like essentially an overpowered damage. So crouch stab with a hammer, if I can get it on his tail. 1 second. 1, 2, and just with 3 crouch stabs, he's gone. Because it's doing Master Sword jump slash damage towards him. And then pick up the Master Sword, kill him. Pretty straightforward. Actually, I'll just finish it off. So come back in. Once again, power stabbing is still a thing. So all we have to do is come over here. Damage of a jump slash. Come back. Damage of a jump slash. Come back. Damage of a jump slash. And oh! Jump back. Damage of a jump slash. And that's essentially how we do the last minute of the game. Between Fire Temple all the way to Gens. In like 5 minutes. Oh, let me check what the segment time is usually. Best possible time, the 1080 long warp. It's like, yeah, like how we do it in like 7 minutes. It's dead. Thanks guys for watching.